So basically the definition of procrastinate is to delay or postpone action or to put off doing something. And the 16th century Latin basis for this word sound like this, which sound way more forgiving. Deferred till morning and belonging to tomorrow. So I love those because they're way less judgy, you know? Sometimes putting something off is actually in your favor and it's supportive and it's still going to happen. And sometimes procrastination is just like putting something off and indefinitely, and it's not going to happen necessarily. So I just wanted to make that distinction. So some of the causes of procrastination are, I think one of the biggest, so these are all big, and you can tell me if you resonate with any of these specifically. I'm curious. So one is not being fully committed to what you say you want to do. So if you're like, 50% committed or 80% committed, and one of my mentors used to say, 99% commitment is a bitch, but 100% is easy. Because 100% is like, I'm going to freaking do this. It's going to happen, So the commitment thing is a big topic. Another one is stretching yourself into something that's new for you without having the resources, support, or plan to make it happen. So kind of getting ahead of yourself and shitting on yourself without actually breaking it down enough. I do this sometimes. So I have to stop myself and like plan. So that connects to being uncertain or feeling uncertain or overwhelmed because you haven't broken down the steps of something you need to do or gotten support you need to get to make the thing happen. So those are big. Another one is a lack of structure, deadlines, or accountability. And that's massive. Like that's something I'll talk about in the solutions near the end. And I'll give you some ideas of how to do that, how to create structure, deadlines, accountability to make things happen. And then the last one there's a couple more here. There's three more. No, actually more. Okay, there's a few. The way I wrote it down, it looks like there's different categories. All right, so basically another one is fear. So fear is coming up, and it's fear of risk, fear of rejection, fear of criticism, fear of failure, fear of success. And those kind of tie back into perfectionism as well. So that's where some of this stuff is nonlinear and it's connected, intertwined even. Okay, and then I'm going to show you all slides today actually, because I'm going to show you, the next one needs a visual. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so, all right, if you ever feel like you can't take action, it might be because your nervous system is in a freeze state. So fight, flight, or freeze. So I'm talking about the freeze state. And I've learned about this in the last year or so, and it's really helped me. I think coming out of COVID, I had a lot more of this kind of feelings frozen. And this awareness has helped me move through it. So I hope this is helpful. A lot of people will find this helpful. So basically, the dorsal vagal complex is a state of I can't, a state of immobilization or shutdown. So it's a feeling like I'm overwhelmed and I can't do something, can't do anything sometimes. So that's something that happens for people when they're stressed out, overtired, or whatever. And then the sympathetic nervous system, the sympathetic system says, I have to. So it's a state of mobilization or fight or flight. So it's the action side. So it's like you have the I can't and I can, I can't and I have to at the same time, which don't really coincide with each other, which creates a blended state of both of these things, of dorsal and sympathetic, which creates the freeze state. And the key to getting out of this or moving through it, I would say, is addressing the dorsal energy first. So the part of you that's saying, I can't, feels unsafe because you don't have energy or because of trauma or because of, being chronically stressed from a pandemic or whatever it is. And so if you address this first by showing your system you're safe, by getting started with small, achievable actions. So I'm talking tiny, and that can be something completely unrelated to what you're working on. So say you have a work project you want to work on, and say it feels overwhelming and you feel like that, I can't, at the same time you feel frozen about it. Then starting with something small, it could be doing dishes. I'm being literal here, and this is, during coming out of the pandemic, this is what got me to eventually get moving. Was I would be like, okay, I have this work stuff to do, but I don't have the focus for it right now. And I did feel like kind of frozen state. So I would start super small and I would do a household task or organize something. And then my energy would build up and then I could actually do stuff. So this is a huge perspective to be aware of, and to know how to actually move through it is priceless. So I hope this is helpful for that. In case procrastination is actually a free state and not, what we're calling procrastination. Okay, so that's huge. Okay, another huge one, and this is when I did a teaser with that one of you asked for. So another huge one that's tied into self-sabotage and perfectionism and procrastination, all the things we're talking about this week, are having secondary gains that you're getting from not doing the thing you wanted to do. Okay, so basically it's a payoff. So you putting something off or not doing something imperfectly, you may be getting something out of not doing it. And I'll give you an example before I even jump into this. So for me, I remember even pre-COVID, I was in a place in my coaching business where I wanted to start teaching, but like I didn't want to start teaching. I wanted to like have lots of free time and watch TV and eat chips on my couch, instead of like focusing on work and getting stuff done and putting myself out there and taking risk. And it took a lot of support for me to step into teaching. I taught my first money makeover course or class workshop in I think it was early 2019, and I hadn't been doing work like that for a while. And it was like I've been doing other work, but this was like next level of my work that I was putting off. So I finally jumped into it. And by that May, I was teaching my first money makeover program for 6 weeks. But it was constantly me like really looking at what I wanted to do and why it was important and what I wanted to get out of it, instead of the advantages I was experiencing by not doing it. So to find the payoff or the secondary gain, think about what is the habit or pattern giving you. So if you're not doing something, what are you gaining from not doing it? It could be freedom, it could be free time, it could be free schedule, it could be a lot of things. So what is it giving you? And what benefit, or this is nobody asked the question, what benefit do you experience by maintaining this habit or pattern? So sometimes people don't track their numbers and they don't know how much money they have, and this is a common one, and they may have and I used to be the queen of this. They may have a sense of like freedom from not actually having to look at it. But the funny thing is, it actually gives you the opposite of freedom, because it gives you limitation, because you don't know. It's kind of like you're going to go on a journey on a boat and you don't know how much gas you have, you don't know what the weather's going to be, you don't know if there's any holes in the boat. But like getting clarity on all those things, like for your numbers, gives you a sense of what you can do, where you can go, and what you need to go further. So but the advantage is like, I don't have to do things that are uncomfortable for me, like math or numbers or bookkeeping or tracking, and things that I was less comfortable with and I was more resistant to. But doing those things has given me way more freedom, way more capacity to earn, way more having fun with managing my money and visioning with what I want to do with my money, and control in a way too. Not that I can control every piece of it, but like definitely more of a sense of control. Okay, so some of the advantages or the payoffs or the benefits you may be experiencing from not doing things you say you want to do are being comfortable playing small, avoiding failure, feeding a story of unworthiness, addiction, or like I'm talking about addiction here in the sense of like neuropathway habits your brain has of disappointment, feeling like a victim, suffering, having more free time, as I mentioned, staying in your comfort zone, which I'm going to talk about in a second, dependency on other people or on other aspects of your life that you're not even really engaged with, self-punishment, it's a tricky one, a sense of control, not making mistakes, playing it safe, or maintaining an identity. And, one of my favorite quotes by James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, is he has multiple ones that are acknowledging that to make a change, it's all about your identity, and identifying differently with something. And this is a similar take here. This is a quote by Eckhart Tolle. He says, the ego is readily attaches itself to your problems. This is why, in order to uphold a sense of self, it identifies and focuses on problems. A large part of this sense of self is intimately connected with their problems. Sorry, a large part of the sense of self people have is intimately connected with their problems. Once this happens, the thing that they want to be, the last thing they want to become free of. So the ego attaches to the secondary gain, basically. And sometimes there's like a mismatch of of reality. You might think, okay, well, I'm going to have freedom by not looking at my numbers or doing those tasks. I don't have to do them and I can do whatever I want. I have this voice sometimes, I used to. And really the freedom comes from engaging in your business and making more money and doing your life purpose, like that's really the freedom, is like the freedom to do those things. And freedom's not free if you are limited by financial issues, stress issues, health issues, because you're not fully living your purpose and engaging in life, which I've done all those things, speaking from experience. So the secondary gains come from your comfort zone in a way, right? So the comfort zone is the familiarity, security, is certainty that you have from doing what you've been doing and getting the results you've gotten. It's not really a big risk to do something different. And the tricky part is that to step out of that, you have to go through the fear zone, where you feel lack of self-confidence and you might have excuses. You feel paralyzed by people's perception or afraid of failure. But once you get through that, you go into the learning zone, where you increase your knowledge, you have a broader comfort zone, you have more confidence, you enhance motivation, and you have new skills, new abilities. And then ultimately into the growth, where you gain new levels of fulfillment, living your dreams, are more creative, and you're next level at your goals, and you have a next level of your purpose as well. So that is pretty massive to move into that and through that. And one of the analogies my mentor Martha Beck used was that, when you first start stepping out of your comfort zone, it's kind of like you're driving a bus. And, as you've always gone, let's say you've always gone left and you've always turned left. And so this is your comfort zone. You've always turned left, you've done this thing, and now you're saying you're going to turn right. And you're going to turn right. And as you get closer and closer to turning right and making that choice and doing that new thing that's different for you, it's like these bullies in the bus get closer and closer. They're like, wait, you can't do that. And they start moving closer and closer to you. And then you think they're going to kill you. And then they get off the bus. So like your brain is there, your lower brain, your primal brain is there to like really keep you safe. So anything outside the ordinary, you're going to have a sense of like, oh my God, this is crazy, this is hard. But like that eventually moves into these other zones out of the fear zone. So that's a normal process that is really good to be aware of, so that you don't feel like, and once you do that over and over again, it gets easier and easier. You're feeling it to heal it, So that's big. Okay. All right, one more slide here. All right, so if you feel like you're holding yourself back and you're choosing secondary gains over your vision, your purpose, and your commitment to all those things, then you're paying a price for it. For me, it was, I had, so my payoff was like free time, sleeping in, watching TV, and instead of doing the things that were harder. And at the same time, even though I had those things and I was getting that, I also had self-judgment. I had some health issues that wouldn't go away. I was frustrated and I had some angst. So I had this like level of like frustration and angst because I knew I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And I didn't have that commitment and momentum yet in what I was going to do. So I got support to create that. So that's something that could be happening. So just be aware at this moment of how it may be impacting you if you're not doing it. And you can feel free to type anything in the chat at any time here. So I'm curious if anything's coming up and what the awareness is. All right, so what do you do? Okay, so a couple more situations here or relevant things here, I mean, are there may not be a sense of urgency. So you may not have a sense of like, okay, I have to do this now, because you can be like, you keep on putting it off without saying, okay, how can I do this now? Because the question is really, if not now, when? Like, there's no perfect time. So like, what can you do now? You don't have to do everything right now, but what can you do now that's moving you toward the thing you want to do? And it's really about making your vision and your purpose and your commitment to those more important than what you're getting from the secondary gains or the payoff. Yeah, this is a total huge mindset shift, you know? Okay, so what to do? All right, so the most important thing I want to make sure that I'm getting across here too is being aware of procrastination and noticing it, but don't judge yourself for it. Like there's a reason you're procrastinating, and so it's just a matter, or like you're putting it off or whatever is happening there. So acknowledge that there's a reason for it showing up, and that you can be just present with yourself as if you're mothering your inner child here, or fathering your inner child, and you're parenting yourself in a way that is being present with your feelings and honoring them, and noticing and see. And when you feel that, to heal it, and you give yourself presence and you feel it, take a breath, notice, and let it be, not judge it. And then once you're through that, you can figure it out. If we try to figure things out from the place of anxiety and self-judgment, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be a great solution, and it's not going to be grounded, really. So another approach, and this is something I used to do in college, is leverage your procrastination. So plan for it. So this includes having to create structure. So I think about college, and now I had papers that were due, and I would write my papers the day before. I was an English major and I was pretty geeky. So, and I loved writing, and I had 2 degrees in English ultimately. One was in education, teaching. So anyway, so like, I loved writing, and I would just put it off. And so I would just plan for that, luckily I didn't get sick or anything and like miss a deadline, but the thing is I had deadlines. And when you're self-employed, you don't have deadlines unless you create them. So that's why I'm doing this challenge, because I'm creating this curriculum because I said I would, and people signed up, So like I have to create this in my business constantly, create structure. And I learned this from mentors. They would pre-sell a product or a program and then create it. And so I'm doing that too. It's like, okay, I'm creating this program, I'm getting feedback for what people want, I'm creating it out of that. And then when I get feedback the first month of it, this membership program I'm creating, and it's like I'm creating it as I go, and I'm building in the accountability that I need to make it happen. I have people who want it, so I have to do it. Yeah, so that's huge. Like creating external deadlines that you have to show up for, and then creating a clear plan. So clear goals and plans and priorities around that, and breaking it down, an action plan. And this is something I teach in my visioning workshop too. When you break, so sometimes people don't break stuff down, especially if you're a creative person, you may not, and this is me, I don't think in linear terms as much unless I stop and like create the linear process. I have to look at it and create it. So that really helps me, somebody's saying I do that often. I tell other people I'm going to do it. Yes. And so Ishka's saying that she says to her people she's going to do this thing, and then she creates it. Exactly. It totally works, and then when you're breaking stuff down into smaller steps, you got to figure out where to start. And you don't, I love this analogy. You don't have to see all the way to New York City if you're driving from LA to New York at night. All you have to do is see as far as the headlights show you, right? You don't have to see the whole way because you can't. All you have to see is like what's right in front of you. What's the next thing? And Mother Teresa had this great quote that says, "Do what's in front of you." So it's really that simple. Like, what's the next thing? And then if you're doing something that's new to you and you don't know how to do it, like find out. Like, don't assume it's intuitive, because there's certain things that are in business that are skills that you need to know and things you need to know about. So get a mentor, get a coach, find some free counseling, and or find a mentor. I said that, but like find a colleague even. So figure out how to do it and give yourself what you need to be able to do it and figure it out, so that you're not overwhelmed by not knowing. Just really educate yourself. Using accountability to your advantage. So it's similar to creating the structure where you pre-sell something. It's having an accountability system that you meet weekly, or you meet monthly, or you meet whatever, and you say what you're going to do and you go do it. And you figure out, for me, and when I do this, I also figure out in the process of saying what I'm going to do, what I need to be able to do it. So it helps me back up and figure out what's next. And this is something that's good for this too, is co-working, which is going to be a part of my club. Because with co-working, and that's you and somebody else meeting and saying what you're going to do, this co-working is amazing because it creates 5 behavioral triggers that create flow. Pre-commitment, so you say you're going to do it, and the intention to implement, I'm going to do this exact thing. Social pressure, because somebody else is there, accountability to that, and specificity of it in the task. So you get to be like, I'm going to do this, so all those things create a sense of flow. And when I do co-working, like, I cannot believe how much more productive I am when somebody's just there on the Zoom screen or whatever, or on the phone, or however you want to do it, So that's one reason why I'm putting that into my club, because I feel like getting stuff done is sometimes the thing that people need. And so supporting that is huge, Okay, so all right. The last one here is huge. It's bribing yourself, basically. Using rewards to motivate yourself is totally reasonable. It's you, right? It's not manipulative because it's yourself. And so, rewarding yourself, and I mentioned this a day or two ago, it works, like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to save up for a trip, or I'm going to create this program, whatever it is for you that makes sense, that aligns for you with your values and your purpose, not something that's like totally out there, but something that works for you, that motivates that part of you that's resistant to actually do it. Because, as you know, like the quote by Jung, what you resist persists. So resistance is futile. So really just like looking at procrastination, here you are. Thank you for being here. What do you have to teach me? What do I need that I don't know yet? And how can I get clear on that so I can figure out what I can do and what I need to be able to do the thing I want to do, So I hope all this is helpful.